So Bashar, I will actually let you leave with your tie intact, but it even looks better from this angle. I didn't see the richness of colors, but...
Well, it's the only tie I have, and I have a bunch of meetings in Washington, so I'll keep it, and then I'll mail it to you.
Well, I'm coming Tuesday night to the Middle East, so maybe I can get it. I don't trust the delivery. The check is in the mail. You've heard about that.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I thought we would do is try and perhaps take us back to the source. And the source is, what was the motivation? What was the draw that you depended upon and the inspiration to be able to, in 2007, announce to the world that you were going to do something that most people thought was impossible, from a business point of view, certainly, and even from a point of view of doing good to help build the Palestinian nation?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, first of all, and it's great to be here. To answer your question, I've always in my mind know that a Palestinian state is in the making. The question in my mind is, what kind of a state we're going to end up with? As long as there are Palestinian people, they deserve their nation, they're asking for their nation. So what kind of a state it will be when one day, although it doesn't look like it these days, politically speaking, one day we will have our state, independent state, and is it going to be prosperous? Is it going to respect human rights? Is it going to be respecting civil liberties, etc.? One of the most important things is economy, of course, and this is my professional interest, strength, if you wish. And I always wanted to do a large impact project that help picks up the economy well before we have the full-fledged state, so that when it comes, we are not dependent on other nations on giveaways. So it could have been a car assembly plant, for that matter. It could have been any big project that has a big impact. Palestine is a very small place. The unemployment in Palestine is about 150 to 200,000, which is about 22% in the West Bank and about 45% in Gaza. So a project like mine, which creates 8 to 10,000 jobs, makes a big difference in the economy. And a project like mine is a pilot project, which, if successful, will have a domino effect, so you could have 5 to 10 projects like Rawabi, thus eating up a good chunk of the unemployment and pick up the whole economy. So this was the number one motivation. The second motivation was improving the standards of living of my people. We are highly educated for the most part. We are very internet savvy, and we know how the world lives. We know how Israel lives. We know how Jordan lives. We know how Dubai lives. We don't have to go to the West to see how people have better living. And we also like to live in a better living place. So it is nice to make home a better living space despite the occupation. This is not normalizing or accepting the terrible military occupation. Despite the occupation, we can live a better life. And so building a modern city with better facilities is upgrading the standards of living of the people.
I want to just pursue that one word that you've mentioned several times about the occupation. There may be a number of people in the room that don't necessarily believe Israel's presence is an occupation in the West Bank. Could you share with us what it is as you navigate these waters? Do you work with the government of Israel in the terms of this, what you've characterized as the military occupation?
Yes, anyway, it is characterized by the Israeli authority as military occupation. So I'm not being aggressive by characterizing it, obviously, as military occupation. But yes, our life, our everyday life very much depends on the military occupation. Whatever we do, no matter how small the project is or how large the project is, obviously the larger the project, the more reliance on the political situation and the more political wheeling and dealing that we have to do. And I really mean wheeling and dealing, because officially we're private sector. We should not be negotiating with a foreign government. It is the Palestinian Authority that negotiates with the Israeli authorities, and we address the Palestinian Authority. This is our governing body. This is our government. However, as you well know, the negotiations since we started the the city project in 2007 have been more frozen than active. They were only active on a couple of occasions in the last 6-7 years, and the longest one lasted less than a year. So it was very hard to deal with the Rawabi issues vis-a-vis the occupation. The occupation controls different areas of the West Bank. There are areas by the Oslo Agreement that is 100% controlled by Israel. And for us at the city, we must cross that area in order to reach other areas. Otherwise, we will live on our own in a large prison. So we have to address the occupation, and we do. We do it for water, for electricity, for road access, for many other things, movement of goods as well. But these are the main issues that we have to address them with. So we do deal with them directly, of course.
As long as we've opened up this can of worms, can we talk a little bit more about, because for those who aren't following, 62% of the area that's designated as the West Bank, or Israelis often refer to it in their biblical terms, Judea and Samaria. In the West Bank, 62% is called Area C, that is solely under the military rule. So that's what Bashar has been talking about. Do you have any other things you're able to negotiate with the Israeli government, which takes us to what are two problems that has gotten significant coverage, including in the American media and the New York Times 2 times in the last several months? The issue of water, without which you can't begin to have the people that have bought their houses in Rawabi to move in, and then one of the main access roads that's in that area, a tiny little slip of Area C. Are those two issues of water and of access road things that you see closure and agreement on, or does it continue to be an obstacle?
Unfortunately, it continues to be an obstacle. We have had on the access road first, we were promised in 2008, and we got the approval in principle. As a matter of fact, the approval in principle was delivered to our Prime Minister at the time, Dr. Salam Fayyad, by the Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak at the time, in the presence of U.S. Secretary of State at the time, Condoleezza Rice. As you know, Condoleezza Rice is long gone, and another couple of Secretary of States took over, and we still do not have the permanent road. What we got in the meanwhile is a temporary road that we must renew the approval every year. It takes us half the way. We got it after about 2.5 years delay, but it allowed us to start the construction, because that road was sufficient to bring the construction material in so that we could build the city after 2.5 years delay. The water is a different problem. We never envisioned the water to be a problem, because I always argued with the officials, hey, you guys, I'm not bringing somebody from the moon to live here. They're moving from other cities, Palestinian cities like Ramallah and Nablus, to Rawabi. It's not like they take a shower in Ramallah and then they drive to Rawabi, which is only 20 minutes, 25 minutes away, and they're like, wow, we're in Rawabi, we got to take another shower here. So we're not consuming more water. It's an issue of an access of a pipeline that we're ready to build, we're ready to finance, that is less than 1 mile. So we never ever envisioned this would be an issue. It turned out to be the biggest issue. We are ready to deliver homes to the buyers. And unfortunately, for the last at least 6 months, we are unable to do that, because it will be not right for us to say, hey, Mark, here's your house, but sorry, there's no water there. So this remains the biggest obstacle for the facing us. We have had promises from the Israeli authorities that they will resolve it. They actually delivered those promises, if I may, to the journalists that you mentioned, like the New York Times, especially, of course, to the Israeli journalists like Yada'ot Ahranot and Channel 2, the Israeli Channel 2, that they will soon resolve the issue of water. The latest message we got was only a week ago that you will have it December 1st. When I called on December 3rd, They said, we told you will have it after December 1st. I said, well, okay.
Did they give you a year?
Exactly. So they said, no, that's exactly what I told them. I said, what do you mean after December 1st? Could be after 5 years. They said, no, we mean weeks, days or weeks. So we're still hopeful. We've gone a long way, and we're not about to stop.
For those who think that we're talking about a theoretical building or two on top of a hill called Rawabi, it probably makes sense to take 2.5 minutes to show your film. If we could cue that up, because when people go to see this place, Rawabi, and they've heard him speak about it, you have to experience the scale, the magnitude of vision here. You might want to also, if we get the film up quickly, talk a little bit about what you think are the unique features of Rawabi as a physical, planned, sustainable city, the largest city ever built in Palestine and in the West Bank. So maybe let's see if we can get this queued up really quickly. Is that possible?
Located a half hour from Jerusalem and just 15 minutes from Ramallah is the brand new Palestinian city of Rawabi. It's the first planned city in Palestine. Eventually, it will become home to more than 40,000 residents. Rawabi is more than just a place to live, but rather a way to live. Rawabi residents and visitors are going to be able to shop, dine and enjoy a wealth of entertainment and leisure activities. It offers its residents extensive green space for outdoor activities and community get-togethers. Rawabi's world-class infrastructure is putting the city on the map as a new modern urban form, offering the best technology advances in the region. The goal is to attract investors and to contribute significantly to the Palestinian economy. Bashar Masri, the founder of the city, says the dream of Rawabi is not just a beacon of hope. It's a symbol of Palestinian resilience and a testament to our commitment to strong, prosperous, healthy communities for generations to come. From work to schools to entertainment, ambitious plans are underway at Rawabi, including a 12,000-plus seat outdoor theater, which will help restore the performing arts as a centerpiece of Palestinian culture. In the city center, startups and enterprises are setting up operations. They are ready to rise to meet the challenges of a new and sustainable knowledge economy. The technology sector will be the key pillar of the city's future. Rawabi will be a premier ICT hub. Both local and international high-tech firms will find Rawabi a very attractive prospect for them to base large-scale ICT businesses. Investors will look to Rawabi and see the foundations of Palestine's new relationship with the global economy and the framework for a better life. All this and more is the new city of Rawabi.
It's important to understand that what you're seeing here is not computer generated. These are from quarries that are in relative close proximity to where the city is being built. So everything you've seen there is not showplace, it's not models, it's real. And it's quite astounding, and I've now had 3 opportunities in the last 16 months to take a very, very broad range of people with political ideas and ideologies, and everyone there essentially walks out with a sense of who would have thought this kind of professionalism would exist. When you see that where the models are, and then you go out and you say, it's been transformed. There's always discussion about where is the implementation on the ground. So my question for you would be, where does the resilience come from? You've barely begun to talk about the inhospitable environment you have collided with. You have inherited probably the most difficult period in modern Middle Eastern history to get investors to come and invest, to get people to buy in an area that seems to be close to ground zero for all of the oives. How do you get hooray out of oive?
Well, I came up with the idea of the project, full stop. After that, it was hundreds and thousands, thousands of Palestinians who came up with such innovative ideas and such an energy to build the project. This project, although this was not our intention, became first a showcase to our own selves that yes, we can build a better future. We do not have to wait and we do not have to live on aid. We can do things ourselves. And then it became a showcase to others like yourself and your visitors and tens of thousands who visited Rawabi that yes, these people are determined and they deserve and they're ready for a state. They want to build a state, so we should support them. And we're getting tremendous support because of that. There were a lot of innovation in Rawabi, a lot of new ideas. The amphitheater that you saw, which is the largest amphitheater in the Middle East, actually, was a creation by necessity. It was not planned day one. We had 2.5 years of no access roads. The site is super steep, so we had a lot of excavation to do. And so we decided, one of our team members came up with the idea. I said, well, let's build a large park and terrace the mountain rather than taking all this excavated material out and dump it somewhere and create an environmental problem. Let us help the environment and solve our own problem by creating this beautiful park, which the amphitheater is in the center of that park. Somebody else came up and said, wow, this is a rocky mountain. Let's see if we could use those same rocks to clad the buildings, to build the buildings from Rawabi. Rawabi is probably, to my knowledge, the only city in the world that is built from its own material. Every single stone in Rawabi is from that earth. So when we excavate, we take the stone, we build a stone cutting factory, we train the people, we brought experts to train the people, and so all of Rawabi is built from that stone, and the leftover is taken to do the terracing the mountain. I can go on and on of ideas that came from determined and committed people. And that's what keeps us moving. We had a lot of ups and downs. We had a lot of downs. As you've mentioned, rightfully, that it is a super difficult time politically. And it's easy to be depressed politically, to lose hope. It's that determination that you see among thousands of people that keeps us going, and we encourage each other to see what you're seeing, what you just saw a glimpse of in the film. I hope everybody will get a chance to visit and see for themselves, and hopefully we'll see people moving in very soon.
There's one last question I'd like to end with you, and that is the question of the crossfire that you frequently find yourself in. On one hand, there are some Israelis that oppose the building of Rawabi, and I know there are many, many others that support it, but there's some discontent about Rawabi and suspicion, and there's also on some modest flank, perhaps marginal on the Palestinian side, you are condemned for legitimating the occupation. So how do you deal with this crossfire?
It's easy on the Israeli side. We were surprised, actually, that on the Israeli side, we have more supporters than people against. We expected that there will be more against. I certainly don't expect the Israeli radicals, like the settlers, to support Rawabi. I will be offended if they support Rawabi. I'll be happy, but I'll be offended because I just can't see how they would with their ideology. They don't think we should exist there. So that doesn't bother me. The support from the Palestinian community that the project got is humongous, and the buying speaks for itself. People are putting their money where their mouth is, basically. However, we do get criticism. We do get criticism on, like you mentioned, we appear to show that its occupation is okay and we can live under occupation. There were many other criticisms. There were criticism that we are, quote unquote, normalizing with Israel. It bothers me a lot, because it's criticism that comes from our own people. However, we are very happy whenever any of our critics come to Rawabi and see themselves, at minimum, they change from against to neutral, if not for the project. There were so many positives to the project that even if we offended somebody because we have a different opinion than they do, the positive of the project outweighs this negative. I personally don't think there's any negative. In my opinion, in my principles, and if I did think there were negatives, I would have corrected them by now. Obviously, there has been negatives on the way, and we correct them politically or non-political. But we strongly believe in what we're doing, and we are proud of what we're doing.
So this is more than a business entrepreneur that's speaking. This is someone that's got another source of inspiration and motivation.
Yes. Look, the risks involved in a project like this when we started goes beyond normal business, definitely. I was called a dreamer, I was called stupid, I was called crazy early on. Now, the project, you could physically see it, and that has pretty much faded away. When we started the project, I got all my partners and senior staff and sat around the conference table, and I told them that I would like to do a city project. And they said, wow, you must be crazy. You know how many difficulties there are to do such a project, how many obstacles? And I said, let's go around the room and list all these obstacles. We did. In a 3-hour meeting, we went around the room, we counted 102 obstacles. We collectively decided at the end of the meeting to call these obstacles challenges and move on. Today, we only have 2 or 3 challenges left. Water is on top of them.
I'd like to thank Bashar for challenging all the rest of us to think of innovation in such a scale and with such resilience. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I'll contact you soon, okay? And I'll tell you about talking to Malcolm if there are more meetings set up.
Very well.